Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's edition of What the Health Just Happened, where we talk about all things healthcare. The good, the bads, the ups, the downs, the lefts, the rights, and everything in between. We also happen to bring on some entrepreneurs, business owners, parents, spouses, nonprofits, you name it, community advocates and leaders to talk about healthy versus unhealthy business practices, life practices, parenting tactics, you name it. Healthy or not healthy, we talk about it often. I'm your host, Eric Ross. I happen to work for 212 Benefits, who also sponsors the show. Thank you, 212 Benefits, for sponsoring What the Health Just Happened. They are your friends, advocates, friends with benefits, we like to say.
Ooh, I like that.
We do all things benefits for small to medium-sized businesses, Northeast Florida, state of Florida, Southeast Georgia. Doesn't matter. Thank you, 212 Benefits. Today, little unique, right? I think we're going to hit some healthcare. This is a friend of mine from college. We were actually fraternity brothers.
Yes.
I think so. We might talk about your nickname and my nickname. I don't know if that'll come up.
At least you had a good one.
I didn't have a good one. Doesn't matter. So what's really funny is I don't even know how to give you an intro here because it's very unique. We hadn't talked in years, right? You are a professional videographer, photographer. You got a really cool YouTube channel.
Somewhat.
You're a professional videographer, I think is the best way to explain what you do, right?
Yeah, so...
Also, Trey.
Yes.
Grover.
Yes, you know me as Trey Grover.
But we got to do the name thing right off the bat.
So right off the bat, we know each other from college years.
Yes.
You know me as Trey Grover, George Lowell Grover III. That's my legal name. Let's just stay at that.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when I went up to D.C. in roughly 2011, I was trying to get political jobs, and political people look at your Facebook, your Instagram, your Twitter, and so it only made sense to change my identity for getting jobs. I'm being honest.
I didn't know this. So full name, right?
George Lowell Grover III.
And Trey is basically the third.
Yep.
And then you didn't change your name legally, but now it's Trey.
I have taken on this internet persona of Trey Lowell, and that is through, obviously, if I'm trying to get a job with you, I'm going to put my legal name down. But when it comes to my day-to-day interactions with most people, whether it's in person or on the internet, most people know me as Trey Lowell. I even had people show up at my wedding and were like, wait, his name's not Lowell?
I love this.
I mean, this is a true story. And a lot of people didn't even know me as George, where they're like, I literally got a phone call from one person that was like, George Grover, what happened to Trey? This is to my wife.
All of this said, so his business, we got to acknowledge that
Yes.
too, how you ended up here.
Sure.
We talk about some fun stuff too, politics. People love talking about politics.
I know.
Money, parenting. Lowell Productions.
Yes.
That's the company. What's the website?
It's just TreyLowell.com and LowellProductions.net. Honestly, couldn't get .com, so it's cheesy.
Hey.
But hey, search me on Google. I dominated that space.
Look, you again. So we hadn't talked for years,
Yep.
right? Started this radio show, which we also repurposed as a podcast, January of 23. That's what year we're in, right?
Yeah.
So I had done, I don't even know, 6 months of the show. I'm like, man, I want some video content, mainly for the guests, right? To
Sure.
plug their business. They have events coming up, and you get a nugget. And then you and I are texting back and forth, and it's been a couple weeks, maybe a month.
I think we've been working together now for a good 5-6 weeks.
Okay, again, I have
But remember, it
recollection of
started with the
Ooh,
episode
health
X.
Episode X.
Yeah.
The health scare.
Yeah.
I think that should come up too. Dude, so you're not chiming in yet. I almost passed out in here. They had to take me to the ER
The first time I was filming them, too. I hadn't seen them in years. And filming them.
It's a crazy story. We had a guest here. My business partner, he's here. Jay Bose is there. I got white as a ghost, lightheaded, fell in that corner over there almost. It was crazy, man. Not healthy, by the way.
What ended up happening, out of curiosity?
So I don't mind sharing this at all. I was on blood pressure medicine for years. Okay. Not years, like 2.5 years. Got it under control. I said, I'm coming off blood pressure medicine. Don't want to take any medications. So I was probably off it for 2 or 3 years. There was a couple weeks where I'm like, something's off, right? I'd felt kind of lightheaded sometimes, headaches, etc. So I started taking my blood pressure twice a day for a couple weeks, and it was elevated. So I couldn't get into my doctor. I could talk about this for hours, by the way. My doctor wasn't available for 3 months to come see. I'm like, all I need is to recall my prescription for my blood pressure medicine. So I called Teladoc, which we have through our insurance. They called in a script, and I had forgot the dose, and I requested a 20 milligram dose of this medication. I was taking a 10 milligram dose of the medication.
Okay.
So I was on the literally 2 days. I'd started it the day before, right? And it usually takes 24 to 48 hours for it to kick in. Started it the second day. I ran a gamut of tests, all the blood work, CT scans, like head to toe. And this is over months, since I guess 2 months.
Yeah, it's been about 2 months.
Everything came back normal. The blood pressure medicine was too high of a dose. My blood pressure bottomed out. I almost passed out. So,
a little scary.
It was.
And the first time I worked with you, I feel like you felt guilty. You're like,
I felt so
and I'm over here. I'm like, dude, don't feel guilty. You basically died in front of me for a second.
I actually like where this is going already, because I wanted to talk about your business. We're going to get to DC. But this is healthcare related. We had talked about this.
Absolutely.
Worked as a firefighter nurse, right? Firefighter, then nurse. Work in the healthcare space. You brought it up. You're like, man, we could talk about this, because what do you do as a citizen out in the community when you see something happen like that?
I was just shocked, and I couldn't help you, which is kind of lame that like a grown man was looking at his buddy like, what do I do? What do I do?
I like. So you had right, Joey Jansen.
And
Laura Nolan,
Laura, Humana.
Who was the guest, Laura Nolan, and then Jay Bose.
Yep.
Everyone was, I assume, panicked, right? All I felt later was guilt. As soon as I got normal, I was sitting in the ER right down the street. I'm like, I feel completely fine. So then I'm texting everyone like, I'm so sorry. I'm like mortified that these people come out. But what I didn't realize is that on the other side, everyone was like concerned and scared for my safety and well-being.
Yeah, what was interesting, and like I think most people don't find themselves in situations like that, whether it's on your end or even my end, where you're witnessing in that. And I think the thing that was just scary was like, you definitely were very intent on being like, no, I'm going to finish this podcast out, while the other 4 people in the room are looking at you and just like, no, dude, you have to go to the doctor.
Okay, it's a radio show, not a podcast. I'm kidding. I love doing that. I love saying that to everybody. It's a radio show that we repurpose as a podcast.
I do listen to it on, 7 o'clock Saturdays?
7 p.m.'s 104.5 WOKV.
Boom.
I like to give them a plug once in a while, too. Cox Media Group, but... Back to that. So a citizen, and then I just want to talk about you.
Sure.
Even though I'll talk about this story all day. You can't give, no clinician or anyone, like you can't give medical advice. But the most basic thing I think anyone should know, like when you're 14 years old, you should go to get CPR certified. It's so simple.
Never thought about that.
It's so inexpensive. Babysitters are getting like almost required to do it. Then you have what's called BLS, basic life support.
Okay.
Excuse me. Which part of it is training for CPR, but they teach you what's called the ABCs: airway, breathing, circulation. This is good because this is healthcare relevant versus just...
I'm learning something.
ABCs: airway, breathing, circulation. So the same thing, if you're a medic in a fire department and you show up on the scene, the first 3 things immediately, if someone's unconscious, ABCs. Is their airway open? So think about it. If you can't breathe, if you're slumped down, a lot of people talk about you swallowing your tongue, which is very... unlikely, but your head can sit a certain way where it blocks your airway.
Sure.
You could have food. So immediately you open the airway.
Okay.
There's a way to do that. Are they breathing? So if you walk up and you can see them breathing, clearly their airway's open.
Okay.
And they're breathing. But you got to check their pulse, because they can be breathing and still have like no pulse. Feel your pulse on your wrist right there. Can you feel it?
I can.
So feel your pulse up here on your carotid artery.
Oh, I really feel
stronger,
it there.
Right? Your heart's here, shooting. How are we talking about this, dude? I
don't know, but I'm learning something. I don't care.
Airway, breathing, circulation. So if you go up and you feel someone's pulse and it's barely there,
you're
having some circulation issues. You feel it up here and there's no pulse, you got to start CPR.
You want to know what's crazy about that day? And since I filmed it, and I got to see the footage of it, I have an angle of where you're literally checking. I can see you during the radio show checking your pulse. Yeah.
So my concerns, and I was feeling possible heart palpitations. My heart rate had spiked. Right, when your blood pressure lowers, your heart rate goes up. Again, that's a whole different conversation. But forget all that. I was clearly breathing. Right.
Yep.
My airway was fine. I had a heartbeat, and then you start running through a gamut of other stuff. Typically, if I'm looking at something like that, I'm immediately thinking like this human's blood sugar is dropping. So then the next thing is like, are you a diabetic? Is your blood sugar low or high? We got to get off this topic, man.
Yeah, but here's the thing. That's important stuff, whether it's me or someone that's listening to this. Like I said, you were the most professional and most certified for this situation, yet you were the victim of what was going on and had 4 people kind of being like, I mean, obviously we did the right thing. We took you where you needed. Everything worked out. But just in the moment,
what was I saying the whole time? No, don't take me to the ER.
Yeah.
No, let me finish it.
Yeah.
And then eventually it's like, I'm not.
Is that a very man thing?
That is 100% a dude thing.
Yeah. I feel like I'd do the same. I mean, like, honestly, because my thought was when you were saying sorry is I'm like, crud, I'd be saying the same thing to these people. Like, I'm sorry, guys, you came here for this. Like,
and again, here's going back to a man thing. I think it was almost a blessing and a curse. I had some, like, not serious health issues, but there was some stuff going on that I clearly had to get dialed in. The blood pressure is one of them. Why is my blood pressure up? Well, dear Lord, I've been eating like crap for 6 months, right? Not saying I drink alcohol, but dear Lord, I'm drinking a lot of alcohol for the last... No,
guilty.
Yeah.
Guilty.
Talk about that, too.
Yeah, man.
Dude, but no, I mean, again, let me give you a manly story, too. I'm actually going to call, this is a buddy of ours. His name's Brandon. I'm going to make him listen to this episode now. This is last week, and I'll show you the video after the show.
Did he step up?
Dude, he had a ladder on the side of his roof. He's like manly man, like grills meat, works with his hands, like he's a man, right? I love you, Brandon. Do that. I'm showing you this video.
Yeah.
He had the ladder up, and as soon as he sent it, I could see the ladder's like, oh dear Lord, that's not a good ladder angle. He has it on his ring. Ladder kicks out. He had a leaf blower. He was on the roof, leaf blowing his roof.
No way.
In the video, falls off the top and hits the ground with a huge leaf blower on. It's nuts. He's so lucky he's okay. So it happened, I think it was Saturday.
All right.
Sunday, he texts me a picture of his arm. He's like, hey, man, I think my arm's messed up. Oh, it's like triple the size of his other arm. And again, that's just...
Doesn't want to go to the doctor?
Correct. Correct.
Total man.
Exactly.
I mean, honestly...
His wife, dude, he came over and I, like we splinted it, and immediately so I'm like, your arm is broken. There's no question. What's crazy is the next day, the pain was even worse. It was more swollen. He had an infection. Ooh. So he had like a small wounds.
Now really being a man. Where,
dude, well, it got to the point, and again, it got to that point where it's like, I have to seek care for this, and if you didn't, 24 more hours, that infection can get way worse.
Could you lose your arm?
You could. It also could spread everywhere. And that's complex. Turns out his arm's also broken, by the way.
Oh, geez.
I can't do that, by the way.
Well, yeah, I mean, going the whole man approach and being a tough guy sometimes can kick you in the you-know-what, I think.
Yeah. And again, I don't even know how do you talk about it, too, because we talked about parenting before the show started.
Sure.
Being a man. What's right? What's wrong?
I think when it comes to like serious,
I've got a daughter now. Yeah.
Well, I think when it comes to like serious health stuff, I think the man card is maybe where you kind of put it aside. But if we're talking like, for instance, my son busted his nose the other day at school. He's in kindergarten, and we get the phone call, and of course, they're telling us he has a bloody nose, his head hurts, yada yada. And like the man side of me is like, all right, bud, like let's clean it up, go back to school. Of course, the like lady at the school is like, do you want to come see him? So mom drives up, sees him. I say all this to say he ended up doing the man thing. He actually went to school and finished it out, and it made me really proud. So I say in certain situations, I think taking the man, being tough, is a really valuable thing. I just think that so many people think that now, like, if you do that, you're trying to like, oh, I'm just trying to be this macho person. And it's like, no, but I need to be a strong individual. And there are certain cases where I think you take a step back, and there's certain cases where you put your head down and you move forward.
Yep. And I love that. This is not even a little bit how I thought this conversation was.
No, not at all.
Which is hysterical. We've already said, be a man, all that nonsense.
Which I am trying to raise men. I mean, because I've got 2 boys, you've got 2 boys.
Do you have any daughters?
I have 1 daughter.
Is she?
So I've got 5.5-year-old son, I've got a 2.5-year-old son, and I've got a 16-month-old daughter.
Okay, so you're about 2.5 years
behind you.
8 just turned 7 and just turned 5. 2
That's
boys
awesome.
and a girl, which is great.
Sure.
And I love that you said that. Like, I'll acknowledge that. I'm trying to raise, and they're still boys, right? I'm trying to raise men.
And actually, sorry to cut you off. When I say men, gentlemen.
Oh, I love that.
Because there is a
man whose conduct proceeds from goodwill and acute.
Dude, I had a buddy in D.C. when I worked up there. His business card said distinguished gentleman, or like true gentleman. It was like his name, and it was like him. It wasn't a photo of him, but it was like this icon of a guy in a suit and tie. And like, I think that, I wouldn't say suit and tie, but that the true gentleman is what I'm trying to raise with these boys.
We got to rein this in, because this is not like men. It's like, let's raise some gentlemen.
Yeah, someone that'll open the door for a woman, or, like there's plenty of things. It's funny, like if I ever hang out with my...
healthy.
Hit me.
I'm saying true gentlemen.
Oh, absolutely healthy.
The healthiest, I think.
I think so, because that person is willing to step up when things might escalate, but also is willing to take a step back when like they kind of know their place.
I need to throw something else in there too, because my daughter's 5 now. Of 3 children, guess who the toughest is? Without question.
Your daughter.
Not even a question.
Yeah.
Between me and my wife, guess who's the toughest?
Your wife.
100%. It's not even debatable. Like, I hate to admit it, but it's not even debatable.
I think that is very easy for you and I to see and understand because we're married men. I think before you get married and before you start having kids and stuff like that, you might have a little bit of a different look at women. But once you start getting like, I'm married, I'm now having kids, there's a different side of women that I think you start to see that you go, oh crap, as a man, I could never do what that person's doing.
Yes.
And they technically could do just about everything we can. You know, obviously we could debate some of the physical stuff, but I'm just talking like mentally with kids, just the patience level, dude.
Oh my gosh. All right. Let's. Here's a thought. I want to come back to this too. Are you going to sit here the rest of the time?
Well, I think the best part about us talking about kids is it can lead into my business, because my business is what supports my family and my kids. And I know that's one thing that we're here to talk about.
I love that you brought that up. Right? Why do most of us work? It is to support our families. And this is
100%.
Any wherever you are, maybe it's yourself in whatever stage of life you're in. So your business specifically, Trey, you were born and raised in Tallahassee, right?
Born in Pensacola, raised in Tallahassee. So I have a very redneck side to my family.
Which
I love it.
I got some
I love
redneck
it.
in me too.
I love
really
it.
do. Moved to Jacksonville to go to UNF.
Yep.
Right? What year was that?
2004, stayed till 2010.
2004 to 10. What did you study at UNF?
Business management. Yes.
I always say it every time.
Business management and administration.
Okay, so at that age, this is what I like too, is like, what did you think you were going to do when you grew up?
I thought I was going to own a Firehouse Subs. I had spent...
Wait, what?
Yeah, dude,
Hold on.
You didn't think that was the answer.
Was he going to be like,
dude, I wanted to own a chain of Firehouse Subs. I grew up in Tallahassee, and my first job ever, my dad dropped me off at a Firehouse Subs. Walk in there, get a job. Little did I know he knew the owner, but he wanted to
they
make.
were founded in Jacksonville, by the way.
I do, and I mean, dude, I don't want to go too far down the Firehouse wormhole, but I worked there for 9 years, on and off. Yeah, I managed one, and I say manage like shift lead and stuff. But yeah, throughout college, I did a little bit. But you asked me the question of what I thought I was going to do, dude. In a fantasy world, I thought for some reason I was going to graduate college, and my parents knew that I wanted to own a firehouse. I thought they were just going to. Okay, we're gonna help.
It's a firehouse.
Yeah, very dumb,
Hello,
very
reality.
stupid.
Hello, real world.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm willing to admit that, but yeah, I thought I was gonna own a chain of Firehouse Subs.
Okay, and then so studied business management, right?
Business management, administration, and when I wasn't working at Firehouse, I either was bartending at Don Pablo's, which was great
That's a
experience,
great college job, right?
Oh my God,
The
good
greatest
money,
college job.
people skills, the whole shebang, and then I also started my own mobile auto detailing business in college.
Yes.
Yeah, dude. And I
Dude, Nick was talking about that recently.
He was my best customer.
We're name-dropping friends of ours from college.
Dude.
This is crazy. We're having a little flashback here.
And so I did that. I paid my bills off of detailing cars for like 2 years in college. Like straight up. That's all I did. Pull up to your house, give me a water hose. I got everything else. So
entrepreneur.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, it's always been in my brain that like I was going to work or own a business or like operate one in some capacity. And that also, I probably should give a disclaimer, everyone in my family owns a business. My sister and my aunt and uncle are the only ones that don't own a business.
Okay.
And I'm talking grandparents, aunts, uncles. Like when you go to I just was at a wedding last weekend, every single person there dancing on that dance floor is a business owner.
I love that, man.
It's very rare.
And we wasted so much time talking about being tough or not tough or avoiding the doctor in the X episode.
Being
I like
tough,
that.
though, could be a part of your business. Like, being in business is tough.
It's
hard.
Bro. It's a grind.
Bro.
It's not easy. It's exhausting. It's, Okay. We'll get there. So, because I want to get through this story before the commercial break. What year did you end up in Tallahassee or DC?
So, graduated from college 2010, farted around for about a year and a half.
That's medical terminology for like went from place to place. Farting around is a medical term.
Had a job, was doing just fine or whatnot, but like I said, kind of goofing around, and had an uncle approach me about coming to DC. And I'll try to wrap it up quick, but in a nutshell, when I was in high school, I was United States Senate page, where you actually, your junior year of high school, you go up to Washington, D.C., and you work on the Senate floor. And so little did I know, like something that my parents basically forced me to do in high school would then like come back into play later in my life when basically I moved to D.C. in 2011.
So 2011, when you went to D.C., what are you going there? Like you have no idea? Or
no, so I was approached by my uncle and he was like, you need to get out of Jacksonville and you should just get an internship. Like I work at the Heritage Foundation. You should come here, give it a swing. And so I did that. And like, dude, 26 years old, making a minimum wage, being an intern at the Heritage Foundation was pretty embarrassing. Now, like when I look back at it, dude,
it's the greatest thing ever.
Greatest thing ever, surrounded by suit and tie, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, all the people that were, like, I went from being around a bunch of bros to then being in a group of, like, type A people, like, serious, buttoned up.
Yep.
And it just...
Successful.
It was exactly what I needed because I think I had always had potential, but, like, I needed to be around the right people to, like, take it to the next level.
What are you saying? You were around, like, the wrong people in college or something?
I just think
that's another.
I just like fun was more of a priority. I needed to be taken away from fun and put into seriousness, and that's exactly what in 2011 I chose to do, pretty much.
Okay, so we got a couple of minutes left here. Ended up in D.C., 26 years old, minimum wage, internship. You feel like it was wrong, but it was great. Why? And then like it's going to be hard to hit this. In 30
no,
minutes,
I can totally hit it. And so, okay, of course, I am like confused. What the heck's going on? Like, I don't know my senator. I don't know any of these congressmen. I have been thrown into the epicenter. If anyone listening to this radio show knows the Heritage Foundation, they are at the pinnacle of the conservative movement. And so, yeah, I go there. They teach you how to eat 5-course dinners. Like, I mean, dude, they were preparing you for your next job. And they helped me after interning with them for 9 months. They helped me get my first job at a group called Freedom Works as a press assistant. And then from there is just like when the trajectory of everything that has to do with Washington started. Like the story kind of started with the internship, but once I got my first full-time job, it was like game on like Donkey Kong. And
was the first job doing video stuff,
no,
photography stuff?
Dude, I was a press assistant.
We're going to have to hit I promise you I want to talk about this coming in the second half too. So what was the first job after the internship?
Press assistant at Freedom Works. You want to hear what's funny?
What does that mean? Like, what is a press assistant?
Basically, you're writing press releases. If Freedom Works, 501c3, 501c4 nonprofit, but they could also do some political stuff. Well, when things are going on the Hill, these types of groups are like judging how congressmen are voting. They're giving them grades. And a lot of times, like if something breaks on the Hill, then that particular institution, whether it's Heritage, whether it's Freedom Works, whether it's CEI, all these different groups, they're kind of like putting out their stance on an issue. So it was my job all of a sudden to like hit to the computer and give stances and stuff like that. And I was horrible at it.
You were bad. Okay,
bad.
Again, 104.5 WOKV, radio show first, it'd be on the podcast. Coming out of the commercial break, let's hit some more DC because I want to dive into politics, which people are like uncomfortable to talk about. First half was interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that.
No, not scripted.
Stuff. Anyways, so Trey with Lowell Productions, right?
Yes, sir.
Not Lowell. Lowell. Trey, I appreciate you joining me. That's What the Health Just Happened. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the second half of What the Health Just Happened. If you missed the first half, the good news is this will be posted on podcast. Trey, you're going to help me with this stuff, right?
Absolutely. I'm going to be promoting
Spotify app. I don't even know, man. I'm kidding. Available via podcast. The show airs on 104.5 WOKV. Thank you, Cox Media. So Trey, I want to say Grover, but I can't. Now it's the alter ego.
Dude, the alter ego is working because it literally, that's what everyone knows me as. And in a weird way, we've been talking about politics. Gosh forbid one day I run for for political office. This could help me. You want to know why? Because it'd be like chameleon. No one would know exactly who I am.
That's right. Or like a ninja.
Yeah, no, I kind of like
dad
ninja
jokes. I
know. It's like we got to reel me back in.
You got to reel me back in. It's a problem. So first half, again, all over the place. We shared a story about a kind of a health scare that I had on the radio show the first time that Trey was recording in here.
Oh yeah.
We talked about being a man or being tough, which again we acknowledge also that women are tougher than men.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
My daughter, absolutely. A little bit about parenting. We started to transition into your journey to DC, a little bit about politics. So where we left off, again, podcast, it'll run straight through.
Sure.
Radio, there's a commercial break. So you did the internship after leaving Jacksonville, true entrepreneur.
Yep.
Minimum wage, doing this internship, kind of humbling, but you're surrounded by, Yale, Harvard, Brown University graduates doing this stuff. And then you go to your first job as press secretary assistant, or what was it?
Press assistant.
Press assistant. Okay.
Yeah.
So catch up there.
Yeah. So like for those that maybe are just jumping in a nutshell, 2011, I left Jacksonville to go up to Washington, D.C. for an internship with the Heritage Foundation. That lasted a lot longer than most people. Actually ended up there for 9 months, and that turned into my press assistant job at FreedomWorks. For any of those wondering, both of those groups are 501c3 and C4s. Depends. Heritage Action is their C4. I say all this to say, I get this press assistant job, and I swear I only got it because when I interviewed, her name was Jackie, and we just hit it off. Like, I don't know if you've ever had an interview where you just really hit it off with the people.
Yeah, right now with you, man.
Well, maybe it's just me.
Years.
Maybe it's me.
Sorry,
I don't know.
Sorry, continue. You and Jackie are
but we hit it off, and so I get this job that I probably wasn't qualified for. I think she just knew, bottom line, I could probably train someone. I like this person. I can be around them. Because little did I know, this wasn't like a 40-hour-a-week job. It was more like, yeah, we're paying you full time, but we expect you to be here like 55, 60 hours, which was awesome because if
single at the time or
single,
met your current wife?
Single. Yeah.
Current wife. You've only had one wife, by the way. I shouldn't say current
I've been
wife,
married
sorry.
now for 8 years. Yeah, 8 years.
Okay,
but
so single at the time.
Single at the time.
60 hours.
Yeah, and so press assistant, like I said earlier, it's just basically you're doing rapid response to a lot of stuff that's going on in the political field, whether it's on Congress, whether it's the House or the Senate. A lot of these groups have to take positions, and they like to push it out to their networks as fastly as possible. So when you're the press assistant, a lot of times you're in charge of just quickly mocking some stuff up. You then send it to the press secretary or comms director. They pretty much expect it to come almost done. It never happened when I did it.
Oh, you were like, hey, we want this done in an hour. Yours is like 6 hours later.
Not only that, like, I was your typical, like, Florida bro. Like, I hadn't even had much experience on computers. I mean, I could barely even type without looking at the keyboard.
You had, like, again, let's call it what it is. You had washed cars. You started your own.
Dude, I was a hands-on guy.
You wanted to own your own firehouse. If you missed the first half,
yeah.
Again, listen to it. Like, that's just reality. So now you're thrown into this. Dude, I got a similar story in my journey in entrepreneurship, but I love this. So now.
Yeah, it's just like, I'm able to get by, whatever. I actually held that position for about a year and a half. And then that's when things actually, like, you've introduced me as this video guy, but we haven't even discussed video yet until this point. And so I carried that job as a press assistant for like a year and a half. Like I said, we all got along. I started to pick up the trade a little bit over time, and I was definitely like listening to my boss and taking what she was teaching me and implementing it so that I could get better at what I was doing. But long story short, we fast forward a year and a half, and we used to put on these mega events, okay, with like
how many people?
20,000 people, 30,000 people. We're talking Glenn
mega.
Beck, we're talking Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, presidential candidates, Senate candidates.
Geez.
Yeah, big events, okay?
So not like this event I'm going to in downtown Jacksonville with like 150
probably
people.
not.
Okay, got it.
But like these are $20, $30 million a year groups easily. I mean, Heritage Foundation probably like $100 million a year.
Yeah.
Point being is the turning point and everything happened where we were put on this big event, and I slipped up and allowed someone from an opposition group to get into the event. So like, let's say I was with FreedomWorks, so probably more right-leaning, libertarian-leaning, okay?
Yeah.
Ideally, you don't want a bunch of left-leaning people at your event because they're just going to disrupt. Well, I made a mistake, allowed someone come in.
You work in security?
No. I'm like, sorry, I should probably clarify. As a press assistant, you're also taking a lot of emails of people being like, I want to come to your event. Can I get media access? Can I have access to Senator Paul? Can I have access to Senator Cruz? And it's me as the middleman to kind of be like, okay, this person is legit. Now I go to my comms director. I say this story to say that was like my biggest slip up, and I let someone in, or through my doing, someone got in that shouldn't have been there, made a video about the event, and I was put on the chopping block. Well, I go to basically get fired, and there was an accountant at FreedomWorks at the time that was like, hey, look, we really like him. He really vibes with everybody. He has...
Vibes is a Florida term, by the way,
total,
not a DC term.
Yeah, no.
Coming to Florida, bro.
That's why I didn't fit into DC that much. And it was there for a decade. But I ended up like this guy just totally sang my praises, like just give him another chance. Now, I hadn't talked about this, but one other role as press assistant is I worked with the video team hand in hand. I booked a lot of the interviews for our talents and stuff, so I had to work with the video team. Well, when I was put on that chopping block, this guy said, the video team really likes him. Don't fire him, just let him go over there. And
that's about being a healthy human, right?
Yeah.
It's about being a connectable,
Sure.
kind, like
I
versus
think-
other people they probably worked with that were just complete a-holes, I would guess. This is
I
DC
think
specifically.
I think he just looked at it as like, this kid's talented. He's just you got him doing the wrong thing.
Okay.
You know, it's like you got a 5'5" guy playing basketball.
Round peg,
you know what I'm
square
saying?
hole.
Yeah. And so that's when the whole transition started to me going over to the video team. At this point, I am just booking interviews. I am the lowest person on the totem pole. I am like, you know, changing memory cards, charging batteries, watching the other video guys do whatever, which is fine. I was into it. But bro, every night I would go home and I would watch YouTube.
Bro is also
I know, I gotta stop
Florida
saying
term. That's
bro.
okay.
I'm a grown man.
Listen, we are who we are.
But you
Trey.
are my fraternity, bro.
You want to talk about nicknames?
Yeah,
We're
not gonna do that. We're talking professional stuff here.
Sorry. Okay. So lowest of the totem pole. So every night you're going home, YouTube.
Every night, dude.
Studying.
Watching how to learn to edit, how to learn to shoot. And I probably did that for like 2 years. And the goal was to learn the skill sets at night and then go implement them during the day. Because when I would go into work, I'd have access to cameras and stuff. But like, if you don't know what you're doing, then the cameras are useless. But if you can pick up what you need to know, then you can start. So I started getting access to cameras, things of that nature. I'll just fast forward it. About 8 months later, I got promoted in that department, but then a year and a half later, I'm running the department. And I mean, everyone that was there when...
How many people?
There was 4.
So like a videographer, photography team.
Yeah, you're talking about your director of photography, you're talking about like an editor, a producer, and then like a low guy on the totem pole, which I was that guy all of like a year and a half prior to that.
This is in, just again, reminder, Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
I love Jacksonville, Florida, and we're going to talk about how you came back, why you love it here, difference between Florida and there. This is not a small area.
Dude,
so
the Freedom Works was at 400 North Capitol Street, which I don't know if you guys know what that is, but that's the same building Fox News is in. All right. I went to the 7th floor.
I didn't know that.
Fox News is on the 4th, and I think maybe even the 8th. They might probably even own more of the building. So like I was in the epicenter of anything your listeners are probably listening to that are into politics. Like
his listeners, for
his
sure.
listeners,
Mark
absolutely. Mark, I listen to Mark.
Yeah.
But like, dude, I was in it. I mean, you could go up to the rooftop, you could see the Capitol. When I tell you could see the Capitol, it was like, whoa, I feel like I could hit this with a tennis ball.
Yeah.
So any presidential candidates, senators, any TV personalities that you guys are seeing, I was in elevators with them all the time. So all that to be said, start picking up the video stuff, end up running the department. Here's one thing that really was, I don't know why I did it, but it was just like I always wanted to make my case why I should be existing and why I should have that particular title or job or even pay, is that I started crunching the numbers on like how I was bringing a lot of the video work that they were outsourcing to other people.
ROI.
I started bringing it in-house, and I started basically coming up with the numbers of like, hey, now that I'm here, before these other guys that are all now gone and I'm in charge, look, we're saving you guys like $50,000 a year, XYZ here, XYZ there.
Yep. Healthy, by the way.
Yeah, healthy. Yeah. I didn't mention one thing, and this is a huge portion of the story, is that I had a lady by the name of Ellen Wheeler who was like,
shout out Ellen.
Dude.
Wait, good shout out or bad shout out?
Oh, like my work mom.
Oh, Ellen.
Bro.
Shout out Ellen. Oh,
Bro, I mean, I'm almost getting teary-eyed talk about her
see
because...
it, by the way. Like this is good.
This lady, like she did TV for years, and then she would just volunteer her time at Freedom Works. And so when I got the job of being the head of the video department, dude, I was in way over my head, you know. But this lady, she just empowered the living snot out of me. It was like everything I did, we're gonna do it. Her main thing, or her goal with everyone was, do it, just do one thing better every time. Every time. And eventually, Trey, that's what she would tell me every time. It was like, this lady's not lying, man. A few years go down the road, and it's like all of a sudden, I fast forwarded too far, but to that story, I had a key figure that came into play that also helped me simultaneously as all this stuff was going on with video, is that Ellen was there to be like my backbone and my support while I was learning and doing all these videos for FreedomWorks. And I haven't really touched on it too much, but I was traveling all around the country documenting what FreedomWorks was doing.
What areas of the country, by the way? I don't want to lose track of that
Dude,
emotional
so I've been to Jackson. I was telling you this earlier, dude. I accepted an award. This was after running the video department for a few years in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, at a big donor event in front of Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, Senator Rand Paul. I had won Employee of the Year, so I've been to Jackson Hole. I've been out to California. I don't think you would be aware of this, but I've been to Mississippi. There was a Thad Cochran, Chris McDaniel's race, bro. When I tell
I thought you said I wouldn't be aware of Mississippi. I'm like,
no. I traveled to all these places for political races and campaigns. So I've been to Arizona, I've been to California, I've been to Colorado, I've been to Florida, Louisiana. I mean, everywhere, dude.
I love this show, but the hardest part about filming the radio show is
we're in a time crunch. Yeah,
right. And again, this is why we had talked about we might build a studio on the side to have guests come back on just to continue. Dude, you got a little emotional there. I like that. I'm the same human. I get compassionate and fired up and excited because I think that person might have changed your life. Dude. Like investing in you and pushing you in a good way, not you're terrible. Like that person, what was her name?
Her name was Ellen Wheeler.
Ellen Wheeler. Like Ellen Wheeler to me might have been the rocket fuel to you today, or one of certain people that like put you on that trajectory outside of, I'm assuming, parents, wife, children, right?
I would say I credit her, but like, dude, if you start looking around in your life, even your life, my life, there are people doing that all around us. I mean, that's the one thing I think I've gotten older, and why I like to give her praise is that like she's not the only one. There were, I met my parents, my uncle. We haven't even talked.
Mom.
Mom. Are you kidding me? And then like we haven't even talked about wives yet too much. But like there are people that are helping me get to where I want to get. Like it's not just me. You know what I mean? And so like Ellen, huge factor. I had a couple of buddies that were big factors that helped me out, and my uncle. I didn't mention this, but my uncle was up in D.C. while I was there.
Uncle's the one who helped you get the internship.
He was, yeah.
So you mentioned
and I lived with him for a little while, and like he was kind of like my rock because, not having family up there and stuff like that. He was just like, dude, when you come here, he's like, everyone's going to try to get you to go in this direction or this direction, and he goes, also, nephew, he's like, the people that do the most work get the least credit in this town. So get ready. If you ever do anything great, you won't get credit for it. And I was just like, yeah, whatever.
What's your uncle's name?
Trip Baird.
Trip. So to me, that's some of the greatest. These are just great nuggets, I think, in life in general.
Sure.
So DC to me, I could visit there maybe. I couldn't last 3 months there.
Dude, I used to metro into work every day. I would walk out of my apartment. And I mean, dude, we grew up in Florida. Metro, I like
some a little bit redneck Florida. I got some South Florida. I got some Indiana in me, but
I remember calling my parents and being like, "I'm getting on the metro," and then I'm going to get to the metro. I'm going to get off at Union Station, and at Union Station, then we're going to walk across the street and all this stuff.
Let me go back to your uncle again, real quick, too, because what did he say? Like you're going to do in this town in general, but maybe you specifically, anyone. Like you're going to do the majority of the work, and you're not going to get any credit for it.
Yeah.
I think that's a good lesson in life sometimes.
It is. I actually got hit with that really hard, and this was in 2020. Dude, I created this award-winning documentary, all right?
What was it called?
It was just called 3D print. It was a
I watched it, by the way. I know it is.
It's 3D printers, and I forget the name of it. Actually, it's a bad thing to remember, but it was all about 3D printed guns. And like,
you can't say guns on the radio.
We can't?
I'm just kidding. I made that
pew, 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 pew. But in a nutshell, learning this lesson the hard way, like I worked for a production company at that point, and I went and filmed that documentary single-handedly by myself. I spent like 4 months editing it by myself. But you know who owns that? You know who got the award and walked up on stage?
Buddy.
And hey, I am bitter. I will always be bitter about that. Yeah, I pointed right at my camera. Michael Jordan. You remember Michael Jordan literally hated on one of his like high school or college, where it was like, And I only say that because I had put so much time, blood, sweat, tears into this project, but I learned the hard way. I got my name as like editor or whatnot, but like, dude, my like holy grail was to go up on that stage in Vegas, accept that award, and thank the people that paid me to do it, but at least get some credit for it. Little did I know, I watched the video of the person I wasn't thrilled about accepting it, and it was like, in my head, I'm like, I'm going to hold a grudge forever. Boy. And grudges are bad.
Don't hold grudges. That's
I know.
Advice. This is, Trey, I knew this would happen. I had no idea how this conversation was going to go. I will say the first 10 to 15 minutes, we wasted a lot of it telling about episode X, which is when I almost passed out in the studio.
But we talked about family. We talked about our wives being men.
Look, I love all this stuff. Which, really?
Tim the Toolman Taylor, man.
Delete this scene. Somebody edit this out of it. But again, the DC stuff, which so you come back to Jacksonville now, right? We can't even dive into this because we got to do.
You want me to sum it up quickly how I got here?
Yes, we have to do terrible dad jokes, right? And then healthy or not healthy.
Okay.
I think I have a couple of those.
Well, you want me to
if we don't get to those, we don't get to those. So all this DC stuff, which is incredible. Sure. What year did you come back to Jacksonville?
I came back to Jacksonville in the end of 2021. So I was up in dude. I did COVID
you're in DC in COVID.
That's why I left.
So Florida, who again, I will debate politics all day if people want to because it's fun for me just to pick another side. I love the state of Florida. I love it here. I'm never leaving. I'll visit anywhere. I will go anywhere in the world. I love to travel. But I love this state for a variety of reasons. A huge one recently, again, talk about it or not, how COVID was handled here versus other areas. So you left your world at the time, right? Mm-hmm. And you were married. Do you have kids? Yeah, you're
married. Owned a townhome, Alexandria, Virginia, 3 miles up the road from the Pentagon. Like pretty much not in the city, but for what most people would think, I'm in the city. And yeah, we did the whole COVID thing. Dude.
And that was
that
what led you to knowing deep down your entire life, I want to be an entrepreneur? Like, when did you start the company? Which, by the way,
my company?
Yes.
Oh, man, I went down the whole black hole because, like, you know, I mentioned working for FreedomWorks. Well, when I didn't, how do I phrase this? When I left FreedomWorks, I was on a retainer with them to still do video projects for them. So I leave FreedomWorks, all right? And I start my own thing. Because you just asked, like, when did I ever start my own thing? So I did FreedomWorks, and I ran that video department for, like, let's say 3 or 4 years. And we were on such good terms there that I was able to negotiate a retainer. Check this out. I was able to have an office in FreedomWorks, get paid a monthly retainer, and only have to be there, like, 2 days out of the week.
Sounds like a salesman by the way.
This monthly retainer was, honestly, basically what I was making with them. Yeah. So I did that. And that opened up the window of opportunity for me to start the production company, which was Lowell Productions. Okay, this is roughly like, let's say,
circling back to
this is like 2017, 2016ish. Okay, that was the first time I ever started a video production business, Lowell Productions, and I did it for 1 full year, and then I got approached by someone that was like, "What do we have to pay you to come run my video department?" And at this time, I was on a trajectory to make like about $100,000. So in my head, I'm like, you got to pay me at least $100K or more, or I'm not.
I made it. It's got to be 6 figures.
But you know, in your head, like, especially not taking a paycheck, earning it like on your own. Like, this isn't steady. This is like 5,000 here, 10,000 there, whatever. So, dude, I get on the phone with these guys, and at the time, it was a group called Conservative Review Television, CRTV, which is now The Blaze, Glenn Beck's network. Okay, and dude, they're like, what do you need to get paid? And I'm not going to say the number, but
audacious number.
Not only did they say yes, they then gave me $20,000 more for health insurance. So my Lowell Productions, my business that I had just started to establish, I jumped ship, dude. I was out of there. And then did that, worked for CRTV for a while, turned into The Blaze, then worked for a group called Free the People, parted ways with them in 2021. A hybrid of reasons, but COVID played into it. And in 2021, we packed our bags and moved to Florida. And that is the evolution of when the business became Florida-based, would be like 2021.
Again, I love doing the show, What the Hell Just Happened. I love now filming it. By the way, we want to acknowledge that. My least favorite part of all of this is looking up at that clock. Because sometimes
How much time do we have?
We have 3 minutes left.
Oh, we can finish it out.
Oh, for sure.
Let's go.
We're going to be champs. Because to me, I want to plug. We now have, this is new. We started the radio show in January, and I'm like, I just want to do this. I love it. I get to sit down with cool people, learn stuff, have some prep calls. I'm like, I want video stuff too. Because even if you get one nugget, like I'm not gonna lie, man, I would edit that clip of you getting a little choked up.
Oh yeah.
To send just to show it.
It's authentic. All
that stuff. I don't think we're gonna hit healthy or not healthy. Might skip dad jokes. That's fine. But the video content that we have, you coming on and sharing your story, and I assume you'll come back, right?
Of course.
Absolutely. Maybe dive deeper into something else. Video, I think video matters, right? You've made a living off of it. A ton of people do. It's not easy. What would you say is the healthiest part of being a videographer and the least healthy part of being a videographer? My phone's ringing. I always say if someone calls, I got to answer it, but I'm not answering that.
I was going to say, we only got 3 minutes.
Yeah, fire through. Not even. We're
so,
down to
you
two.
said what's the best part of?
Healthiest
healthiest
part of being
okay, 100%, and I think I've said this on one of your other episodes, the amount of time I get to spend with my kids.
Ooh,
so now, granted, if my business explodes, then that might change. But currently where I'm at, I'm making a good amount of money. I am seeing and with my kids several hours a day. For somebody that don't know, I work from home in my garage, and most of my kids are home most days. So I'm with my kids a ton of time. So that's the healthiest part of my business. The least healthy side, I don't ever stop working.
You never turn it off.
You can't. My coming from a family of entrepreneurs, and I guess I should say this, my wife's parents were entrepreneurs. My wife gets it. She understands that, like, if a phone call comes, if you call, if this guy calls, I'm picking up the phone. It doesn't matter vacation or not. And so that's the most unhealthy thing, is that when you sign up to be an entrepreneur, it's 24/7 every day, but you have flexibility in other positions of life, and it's totally worth it.
There's healthy and unhealthy parts of it, which again, my goodness, that could be an hour-long conversation. We could talk about, I wanted to talk about the least healthy thing you've seen in DC and the healthiest thing you saw in DC. We can't, because here we got to wrap it up. We're getting the one finger held up. By the way, this is a radio show that we'll repurpose as a podcast, and it's totally live, right?
Dude, it's
Saturday
so
live. I'm winking, by the way. Trey Lowell, that's what I'm calling you now. Lowell Productions, who started filming this, and I appreciate you. I've enjoyed it. Every guest that comes on loves the video content.
Good.
And again, whether you share it or not, to me, it's like a capsule in time, and you're going to keep filming, right? If we keep paying you, of course.
If
we pay for all.
If the check's clear, of course.
If the checks don't, give me a month to try to.
Yeah, I'm flexible.
Dude, thank you for sharing the story.
Yeah, I apologize that I drug it out as long, but I just think if I could just share it with anybody, and probably not many young listeners, unfortunately, but dude, just be open to where life takes you, because there's some cool rides you can end up hopping on board. And had I been selfish and just stayed in Jack's, which would have been totally fun, I would have just never gotten this opportunity and found myself in this seat.
That is arguably the greatest line to wrap up the show. Maybe enjoy the ride too, right? Wherever life takes you, get on that ride and take it. So, Trey Lowell, Lowell Productions, thanks for joining What the Health Just Happened.